Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Yeah, this for my dogs from the east to the west side. You rockin' brown and orange with me, baby. Let's ride. Represent the land, let them know. Tell them, here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Yeah, here we go.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the Here We Go Brownies podcast. I'm Allie Heisong, coming at you live from North Carolina. Join with me, as always, out in beautiful Boise, Idaho. We've got Dustin. Dustin, how's it going? How you doing?
Allie, I got to tell you, it was nice to walk into work on Monday. I am in the West, so as you can only imagine, my office is made up of Niners fans, Broncos fans, and Seahawks fans. And they just looked at me and said, "Don't talk to me." I'm like, "What? I don't have anything to say." They're like, "Don't talk to me." And so it was kind of fun to go to work on Monday, kind of, that little swagger. You come in like, "Yeah, we got you. Yeah, you didn't give us a chance." So no, it was good. It was good to come into work this week. The Browns pulled off that big upset victory, first time in 13 years. And Allie, what's even weirder is how much 2 weeks change and all the turmoil and the Twitterness of Browns fans of, "Oh, we're doomed, we're gloom, we're done. Oh, the world is falling." And then I saw something posted today. If the playoffs were tomorrow, the Browns would be in the playoffs. So it's like, everybody just calm down. We're right where we're okay. Now, it would be a 7 seed against a 2 seed, and that'd be the Dolphins. I don't like that draw. That's why the playoffs aren't tomorrow, right? So, but no, I think we're in a good position. This defense, I will still say this organically, it needs to come up with a name. I have one in my head. I'm going to share with you later, Allie, what I think this Browns defense should be called. But yeah, I think this team is going to keep us in every game because of the defense. So I'm excited. This is going to be a good football team to watch down the stretch as long as our defense can stay healthy. I think this is going to be a good JOK is playing lights out. I like it. Like everything we wanted those players to do and what we thought they could do from the Delpits and all that with Schwartz leadership is well on its way now.
Yep, absolutely. I'm going to get into it here. But before I do so, if you don't have stadium mustard in your kitchen this season, you're doing it wrong. The iconic brand, the iconic taste, it's beloved from ballparks to backyards and everywhere in between. Stadium mustard is a smooth brown mustard, rich in both taste and tradition. It is loved by millions, so head on over to stadiummustard.com to shop now. Dustin, you're right. Look, if the Browns defense can continue on the path that they are, if they can continue to play consistently at this level, you're going to be in every single game. And we've said it on this podcast. I still stand by it right now. The Browns can beat any team in the league. They can also lose to any team in the league.
Sure.
But that's just the nature of the NFL. But you've got a really good football team on your hands. And I really want to talk a lot about the defense tonight because they have been the heart and soul of this team so far. In a year that we anticipated the offense to really take off under Deshaun Watson, Nick Chubb, a really good offensive line. Well, you haven't had that. You haven't had a good offensive line. You lose Jack Conklin week 1. You'll lose Nick Chubb. Deshaun Watson has been out. So you're looking at an offense that hasn't been what we thought it has been. We would think, hey, just rely on Nick Chubb, rely on this offense, we can get by. And that hasn't been the case. The heart and soul of this team has been the defense. And I know it's getting a lot of mainstream media right now, but as fans, are we giving it enough credit? The overall turnaround, I mean, if you go back a year ago on this podcast, on this very podcast, week in and week out, listen to Allie Heisong and Dustin talk about this Browns defense and the inconsistencies under Joe Woods at the time. I mean, we didn't know how to talk about it. We were trying to be optimistic, but there wasn't anything there. To turn around and be the number one defense, especially at efficiency, at this point, in this season, well, it's astounding. And I know it's getting a lot of attention right now, but I want to make sure that it's getting enough credit because what they've done is truly remarkable.
Well, and here's where I'm going to go down a different path. And there were some other national people that brought this to people's attention. And I didn't even really think about this until it was kind of brought to light. The Browns are doing something as a defensive unit that hasn't been done in over 50 years. That's a long time, okay?
Yeah.
But let's even take that a further step. And they said, look, not only have they done this in modern football where offenses are explosive. This isn't the 70s. This isn't the 80s and the 90s NFL. This is the 2023 NFL where teams have juggernauts of offenses, and it's much harder to play defense in the National Football League today than it was decades ago. And to see what this team is doing in real time in the modern era in NFL said almost means more. You know what I mean? Because there's more that they're having to accomplish at a totally different level that you didn't have to scheme against 10, 20, 30 years ago, right? It's a totally different we all know this is a very offensive driven league, right? Like, and you have a defense that shuts down one of the top offenses in the league. It's just there's so many things to unpack in that just from that point alone, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree with that entirely. And just taking the talent that you have and a lot of homegrown talent. I mean, look at the development of Grant Delpit, look at the development of Greg Newsome, Denzel Ward, and a lot of those guys that I just mentioned were first round picks. But I mean, Grant Delpit, JOK, MJ Emerson, those are all, second round picks and on. So to be able to have some of the same guys that were under the similar scheme on the same team last year under a vastly different scheme are just playing at such a much higher and more efficient and fun level. So just want to take a moment on this show to highlight the defense, because I know it's getting a lot of attention, but I just want to make sure that we give it all the credit in the world, because I don't think we would be sitting here feeling as optimistic as we are about this Cleveland Browns, currently led by PJ Walker, by the way, on this podcast if it wasn't for your Cleveland Browns defense.
Okay, you ready for my name, Allie? And if anybody wants to make shirts, okay, I think it'll be fun because this is a unit, and I don't think Schwarzeneggers, the Schwarzeneggers, like they can really rally around their head coach and be called the Schwarzeneggers. Like, what do you think?
All right.
I mean,
I don't know. I'm out on nicknames. So,
right.
But cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody wants to send us
unique.
a shirt? Schwarzeneggers. We're the Schwarzeneggers. Like literally, like they're like stormtroopers that go in and just take out an offense. Like I don't know. I like it. It's a little sci-fi, added to it. So
okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Dustin, real quick, why don't you tell our listeners about Lorello Vineyards?
So if you guys have not been out to Geneva, Ohio, and tried Lorello Vineyards, you got to take a drive out there. Take the family out there. Take a date. Take a friend. And you know what? Get yourself some of this Here We Go Brownies wine. It featured a couple weeks ago on Channel 19 News. A few dollars of each of one of these bottles goes to our great friends over at the Greater Cleveland Food Bank and feeds the hungry people in Cleveland, Ohio, where 1 in 7 people, Allie, go hungry every night, which is astounding to think. But yes, I look forward to trying some of this red wine later on tonight. But yes, get yourself on some of this red blend. But they have other kinds. They have the whites. They have the iced wine. It's harvest season out there in Northeast Ohio for some of those grapes to get ready for next year's batch. But yeah, give them and by the way, if you love the vineyard and you love that, but go see Larry down in the Muni lot. He's got Kennel 2 there every weekend. You can't miss him. He is literally the first thing you see as you're coming to the Muni lot.
Can't miss them. Guys, whether it is sophisticated suburban living, luxury downtown digs, or senior housing, K&D, the largest property management company in Northeast Ohio, has a perfect home for everyone. K&D is your one-stop shop for housing in the region with apartments and amenities for everyone, including residential, commercial, retail, and also corporate housing. Find your dream home at K&D. Visit knd.com to get started. That is the letter K, the word and, the letter D.com. Real quick, one more quick word from our sponsors over at Cleveland Furniture Company. Guys, if you are in the business to save money, head on over to Cleveland Furniture Company. They buy in bulk direct from the factory, so they save you money. Whether it's a new recliner, a new couch, new kitchen table, they've got you covered. It is a true family business out of Northeast Ohio. And you talk about couches, so let's have our new segment, From the Couch, presented by...
From the Couch is brought to you by the Cleveland Furniture Company.
All right, let's get into it. This new segment here is going to be a fun segment, just from the couch, talking about your Cleveland Browns. I want to just take a moment here, Dustin, to talk about some of the burning questions surrounding this team as we are well into the season at this point.
Yeah.
I've got a couple. I know you've got a couple, and it can be big or small. This can be a specific concern, or it can be kind of a broad, just higher level question. So in the comments here, if anybody has any questions that they want us to address, we will do it right
Yeah.
here from the couch.
Dropping.
Dustin, I will let you kick it off.
I would say for me, for stability purposes going down the stretch, the offensive line is going to be probably my biggest, and even Andrew Berry addressed this, that he thought they would address this in the depth position in free agency. But I think the Browns need to get some more depth. We've got some injuries along that offensive line. So for me, I just think we need more depth, right? That's going to be a position that we need to keep some stability as the season goes on, give Deshaun that protection that he's going to need to develop those plays with wide receivers and the running backs. So I'm going to go offensive line, kind of my first one that just kind of jumps out at me.
Yeah, I think that's certainly one of the biggest question marks on this team right now. And I don't think we expected that going into the season. I mean, especially if you look at the interior of the offensive line with Joel, with Ethan, and Wyatt there with guard center guard. You knew that there was going to be some question marks surrounding Jed Wills because, we're, 4 or 5 years into his rookie deal. We knew coming into the season he had to be better. We didn't know at what level, though. Would he come in prepared? And then we knew that we had one of the best right tackles in the National Football League in Jack Conklin, and he goes out. So you are left with this offensive line that is, one, struggling with injuries, and two, playing at a relatively inconsistent level. Last week on the podcast, after the 49ers win, it's a lot easier to be critical on certain parts of the team after a win because they're not the reason that you lost, right? So you can be a little bit, it's easier to talk about. So I agree that this is probably one of the biggest question marks on this team because, to be honest with you, Dustin, if the offensive line cannot consistently one, be disciplined. I think that's a huge area of concern is the lack of discipline on that offensive line. And two, if they cannot be consistent in pass protection specifically, this is going to be a long season offensively. And it already has been. We've been able to kind of ride the wave of how good our defense has been playing. And I think part of the offensive struggles, one, Nick Chubb hid a lot of things. That's just the player that he is.
Yeah.
Two, you're battling through injuries. You're trotting out DTR, PJ Walker out there. So, certainly a decline in play from that respect. But down the stretch, and really at this point in the season, some of the offensive woes, if you will, I think stem from inconsistencies on the offensive line.
Yeah, I would say as far as that, I mean, the offensive line, this is one of those things I think prior to this season, you and I would have said was one of our strengths and would be one of the things that we would look to help Deshaun Watson become the quarterback that we think he can be and stuff. And you're right with the guys going down and it just sucks, right? And I almost feel like we're not where we were 2.5, 3 years ago when we were talking about the offensive line, but I do think we do got to get some backups in there and some rotational guys. And I think Barry is going to be a little, I won't say super aggressive, but somewhat aggressive to go out and get some depth at that position. And I think we'll see some moves over the next 10 days.
I do too. If it's not a big time acquisition, I still think some depth will certainly be placed because Michael Dunn, who stepped in for Joel Bitonio last week, is now on IR. So you are hopeful that Joel is good to go after his knee scope this week in Indy, but we don't know that. You have to have depth there. I agree. I would be a fan of maybe a splash trade on the offensive line. I think that there's some guys out there that intrigue me, but we will save that for our trade deadline podcast that we'll have here in a couple of weeks. But I think that's absolutely fair to start this from the couch series with the question marks surrounding the offensive line. My concern, my question, one of my burning questions is also on the offensive side of the ball. It's Elijah Moore. And the Cleveland Browns are, if they're not last, they're pretty close to last in terms of yards after the catch, especially with the pass catchers. Now, part of that, I think, has a lot to do with the utilization of the players rather than the personnel. And part of that comes from how they are using Elijah Moore. I am pounding the table, and I don't understand why they are using him in the way that they are. Elijah Moore is an incredibly talented player, and you can almost see his confidence just being sucked out of him in real time on the field, in the way that they're using him as a gadget player, throwing him in orbit motion, jet sweeps, things like that. I think that that's a very specific player that you have to use for that role, and I don't think it's Elijah Moore. Coming into the season, I thought throw Elijah outside somewhere as a traditional receiver. At this point, I'm pounding the table just to use him as any type of receiver, whether that's outside as a slot receiver. I don't care. Use him, allow him to do what he's good at. That's creating separation, and that's being a safety net in terms of the pass catchers. We've talked. I know the listeners of this podcast have heard me talk every single year about some of the redundancies in the receiving room, that you have guys that can do a lot of the same
Duplication.
things.
Yeah.
While they are different body types, you don't have a burner. You do in Marquise Goodwin. He's very fast. You do in Elijah Moore in some ways, but they're not using those players as such. Cedric Tillman, he's going to be a big-bodied guy. He's not going to be your burner. They tried to do it with Anthony Schwartz. He's just your straight-line track guy. That didn't work. JoJo Natson a couple of years ago, that didn't work. I think that it's okay to want to use to use a player in that type of role. I just don't think that player is currently on the roster. So my question to you, my burning question is, why are they doing this? Why are they using Elijah Moore in this way?
I don't know, because it seems like every time I watch the Browns and there's a pre-snap motion, I feel like Elijah Moore's moving, like he's physically moving. And I'm like, oh, well, this is, and what's bothering me about it, Ali, is it doesn't give the defense much to worry about if they know that he's the guy that's always going to be in motion, because you just put a guy on him, right? And then you kind of just play, man to man on these guys, because okay, there he goes. We kind of know what they do this every game. There goes Elijah Moore. So I don't know why they're doing it, to be honest with you. I don't know if it's to create just more movement. I don't know.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
I pulled this. It was on Twitter from ESPN Stats Info. In terms of motion through week 6, and Seth Walder put this out. It's sorted by the rate of motion at the snap. So obviously, number 1 teams in the league in terms of motion. Dolphins are up there. Rams, Niners, Lions. The teams you would expect, right? You would think the Browns would be up there doing what they do. No, they are 27th in the league.
Really?
Yes, they're 27th in the league. Run with motion 47% of the time.
Interesting.
Dolphins are running motion 80% of the time. So
yeah,
it can work. I mean, if we go back and we look at the film from the Niners game, I mean, Debo right away. I think I forget what play it was. He went in jet motion and then he ran for like 30 yards. So it can work. I just think that the way that the Browns are doing it doesn't work. One, because I don't think that they're tight enough at the line of scrimmage. And second of all, I don't think that they are, they're just not using the right person for it. And again, I don't know that this person's necessarily on the roster, but I would just prefer them to use Elijah Moore in a different setting. I think that is sucking the life and energy out of him and his confidence. I mean, if you look at the last drive of the game in the Niners game, he was wide ass open. Granted, it was busted coverage, but he can get open. I think we're just doing him a disservice.
Yeah, I don't want to but what happens if let's throw this. I mean, you're right. If you can put Elijah out there at the wideout position and not have him in motion, what happens if you put a Pierre in the backfield, right, for that kind of guy to give it a different look, and then put Elijah out there flanked in the wide receiver? I think that would give the offense a totally different look, and I think you would confuse the defense and be like, okay, what's Pierre doing? Is he going to run the ball? Is he going to catch it? Oh, Elijah's out here. That's usually their pre-snap guy. All of a sudden, you're going to create that defense. Yeah.
So Johnny says they think they can get 5 yards out of play with motion for Moore, so they can have a short third. And that's absolutely the concept behind it. That is why they would do it, but it's not working. So I get it. But again, I just don't think that player, that Elijah is that player for that type of role. Quick one here, Dustin, before I give it over to you. Eric says, question, what do you think they're going to do with all of the salary cap money they got from these restructured contracts? Look, the Browns did a lot of this at unexpected times this preseason. and early on into the season. And I know a lot of people were on Twitter saying, what are the Browns going to do? Is it going to be a splash? What are we doing here?
Yeah.
I'll turn it over to you. Do you think that they are going to do something crazy at the trade deadline? And I will preface with this. I do want to save really deep trade deadline talk for maybe next week. But let's just kind of throw a little speculation around.
Yeah, I don't think they will spend a ton of money. And what I think Andrew Berry was, and he brought this up in his press conference, when I do these restructures, I'm looking at today and the future, right? He's going to have to pay other players next year. Am I correct? Nick Chubb is a free agent after next year. Is that right? After
Let
2024?
me look.
I believe he is. So I think he's going to have to look at some of these contracts and have some money going into extending some of these contracts on current players they want to keep on the roster and maybe bringing in other people to better the roster. So I think it's going to be more of a play for the future, not so much now, but yeah.
Nick Chubb is an unrestricted free agent in 2025. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see. I really don't know, Eric, to speculate too much right now. Look, I think that they may use some of that money maybe to make a trade. Do I think that they're going to make a splash trade and go get like a ridiculous high-level elite left tackle? No. But could they bring in some depth? I absolutely think that that is probable. I would imagine offensive line is pretty intriguing. I know that Denver's starting to sell. I think Minnesota could be one that's starting to sell a little bit. So there's some teams that are out there that have some pretty interesting players that you may be able to get some really good value on. So I don't have anything right here, right now to say that they would be a good fit. Join us next week. We can dive into that a little bit deeper, but I think that they will do something. Dustin, I will turn it over to you.
Yeah, I think they will do something like you said. Here's the other thing. Some of these teams are going to have a fire sale, right?
Yeah.
And they're going to have to offload because they're in the reboot, right? I don't know what the hell they're doing in Denver, but I can tell you this. They're 1-5, and I'm excited to go watch a football game out there because I'm glad I didn't buy my tickets because the ticket prices are coming down. So I can get a cheaper ticket out in Denver. But I got to tell you, I think they're going to just sit back and kind of do the Amari Cooper type of thing, right? They're not going to give away the farm, but man, I mean, the Browns look brilliant now for that trade for Amari Cooper. I mean, they got, I don't know how many miles out of that trade. Like that's one of the, you're like, oh, you're going to give us this and we're giving you what? Okay. Where do we sign up for that? And that's, by the way, an Amari Cooper coming to a Browns team before he even knew who his quarterback was going to be, by the way. So very interesting dynamic there. So yeah, I think it's going to be one of those, they're going to step back, kind of let teams maybe come to them. Yeah, they'll be listening, but I think there are going to be teams that are going to be desperate that are going to want to get some draft capital, but we're going to give away late round draft picks and probably have to restructure a contract here or there of somebody that we have to bring on. But no, we're not going to make a flashy type of thing because here's the thing. We're 3-2 despite all this, despite Nick Chubb, despite Deshaun Watson going down for several weeks, despite Joel Patonio going out of a game. We're still 3-2. Njoku lighting himself on fire. I mean, all these things that have happened to our football game or football team, and we're still 3-2. I mean, like all these things have happened to our football team, and we're still in a playoff position as of today. So I don't think you get desperate. I don't want to use that word, but I don't think you get desperate to go reaching for something that you may not need, I guess, in the big scheme of things as the season.
Yep.
Yeah.
Agree.
Allie, I want to give a just quick shout out to Dustin Hopkins for making AFC Special Teams Player of the Week. Let me just say that out loud, guys. AFC Special Teams Player of the Week. If this season started, we would have never thought any Brown would have had AFC Special Teams Player of the Week before week 1. So it just goes to show you we just need to calm down, relax, and enjoy some football sometimes because it's pretty cool that the kicker we had no idea was even going to be on our roster got AFC Special Teams Player of the Week.
Absolutely. My next question, my burning question surrounds the linebacker position. So Anthony Walker was in concussion protocol coming out of the game against the 49ers. Not completely listed out yet for Sunday, but obviously we know that the length of time that you're in concussion protocol It probably doesn't look good for him in terms of going on Sunday. I think the linebackers have played pretty darn good football so far this season outside of the Baltimore game. But Anthony Walker Jr., the middle linebacker, he's the green dot guy. So without him on the field, that is a bit of a concern, right? That's a bit of a question of not only do you not have that guy out there that's done it all year, but now it's like, okay, well, who is going to be that person? So I want to talk about that a little bit. I have a couple of thoughts and some players that I think would fit the role. But my question to you is, who do you think is going to be the green dot guy Sunday?
I was sitting there thinking about that, and you're right. The NFL is just super cautious about guys in the concussion protocol. He probably won't be at Indy, but I was thinking someone like maybe Sione Taki could maybe be the green dot guy back there. He's been on this roster for a few years. He understands that side of the ball. He understands the players, right? He has a very good familiarity with these guys. But I think Sione Taki could step up and be that guy this weekend.
Yeah, for me, I don't think it's going to be JOK. And at first, I was like, well, that's an interesting thought. But I agree with Sione Taki because he did experiment last year before he got hurt with some middle linebacker role and responsibility. So I think you can kind of plug and play him there, switch him over to Mike. He has the comfortability really to step up and do that in a big way. I also think Rodney McLeod would be somebody that would be interesting just because he has played in this scheme before with Jim Schwartz. Juan Thornhill's another one that came to mind, but really I think it would be Sione Taki just to keep it consistent there in the linebacker room. I think it's not Grant. It's not going to be JOK. One, because of their positions, right? I mean, JOK at will. I think he's playing at such a high level. Let him continue to do what he's doing well, rather than add an extra layer of responsibility onto his plate. And same with Grant, like for the exact same reasons. Allow it to be, somebody that one is either comfortable doing it or can just kind of slide into that role, or somebody that's done it in the past. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. But I do think that we're going to see an uptick in play from Tony Fields, Diabate, maybe even a little bit of Matthew Adams. But I think that you're probably going to have JOK and Sione Taki on the field in two linebacker sets a lot more in this game than what we've seen so far this season, just because Anthony Walker was such an integral role with the Browns so far this season. And it's kind of a bummer because this would be his return back to Indy for the first time since he left there. And he's just been such a great piece on this defense from a leadership and character perspective to on the field production. But I would go with Sione Taki here.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. All right. What else you got?
Let's see. Other burning question. The other one would be for me is just the health of Deshaun Watson. He got into it a little bit today in the press conference. You live with a guy that would know about these things like a shoulder, right? But he really got into the weeds in the medical thing today, and he said it's a slight tear, like almost a cut on the hand. He got into the whole thing of what it is, and it's more of a velocity thing, not so much playing through the pain, but more of a velocity thing. So more, it's for me is just where is the health going to be on a consistent basis for Deshaun Watson as the season progresses? He's going to get hit. It's the National Football League. Can we keep him healthy? So for me, it's just more of that stability in him being able to go out there and be 100% and recover from this injury. And the only reason I say that is I look back at another quarterback just a few years ago that had a not same situation, but played through the pain, and it just got worse and worse to where he ended up needing surgery in the offseason because it was so bad. So it never really healed, right? So for me, it's just the stability of the quarterback position, throughout the rest of the year. I mean, that's that's.
So they came out and said in the press availability that it is a micro tear in the rotator cuff. So David, if you're listening, which I know he is, if you want to text me anything about micro tears, feel free to do so, and I will inform the audience. I am not a doctor, so I don't know, but
we have a doctor calling into the show right now.
We have the Here We Go Brownies in-house orthopedic surgeon just right here in the kitchen. So by the way, happy birthday to David. His birthday was yesterday.
I saw, yesterday. Yeah,
had a great dinner, great steak dinner, tomahawk steak. I was to die for. But So good. So good. But I agree, Dustin. Like that is just a critical question for this team. If you don't have Deshaun Watson and not just have him out there, but if he's not playing well, you
Right.
can't expect to get much done offensively, especially because you don't have the run game that you previously had. While I do think that they played a really good game against the 49ers, Kareem Hunt was crucial. We know who he is, but certainly he's not Nick Chubb. And the truth of the matter is you can't replace Nick Chubb. The offensive line is inconsistent. And then there certainly is a drop in play when you have DTR or PJ Walker out there. And that's not to say I don't like them. I think PJ Walker is fun to watch, actually. I think he made some boneheaded decisions here and there. But overall, I like his movement. I like his throwing ability. I like his leadership. I think he's certainly an asset to have on this team. And I don't feel completely concerned to have to roll out for a few games with PJ Walker. But to sit here and say the Browns are still Super Bowl contenders without Deshaun Watson, you can't say that, unfortunately. So I think with that, you do have to kind of ride the wave of the defense. All right, here we got a text from David. Micro tears are just small tears that come with significant inflammation. So the tendon is not detached and it does not require surgical repair. Body just needs time to heal it. So there you go. You have to wonder if the Browns would have known this, when it happened, a couple of weeks ago going into the Baltimore game. It certainly he could have been an IR candidate. Maybe had they known this and had they gone through the protocols the way that we feel as fans that they should have and been more transparent with communication from a health and safety standpoint, that probably would have been what you do as an organization, just because you have to be on IR for 4 weeks and, we're kind of at that point. But I think that you kind of ride the wave of the consistency.
It opens a roster spot, right? When you do that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Eric says PJ Walker can only learn from the last game. I expect him to play a couple more games, just play a little more. So yeah, definitely. I feel good with PJ.
Well, he's a game manager, right?
Yeah.
He's not gonna throw. And here's the thing: if he gets you a couple touchdowns, and all that stuff, he's not gonna. And that's why the defense is there, right, to help us get through these games. But it'll be interesting as we start to dissect and talk about the Indy game now.
My mom just texted me, make David come on the show. So we're going to have a segment anytime that there's any injuries.
A medical.
He can be our medical guy. Yeah, there we go. Love that. I love the idea of that.
He's like, oh God, here we go. Hey, but you know what though? But here, let's be completely honest though. It is something unique that we would add to a podcast that people would not have, where you can bring in a medical expert about a medical issue that deals with like an injury in the National Football League, an ACL, all those things. I mean, it's the truth.
Oh yeah, it would be a different wrinkle. Speaking of, this is not a concern or a question, just something I want to talk about. Speaking of wrinkles, throughout the past couple of weeks, I was getting more and more annoyed with them running Harrison Bryant out under center. And I'm like, why are they doing this? What are we doing? What good comes from Harrison Bryant taking a direct snap? Well, we learned. You add a couple of wrinkles in there with Kareem Hunt. Harrison Bryant takes a snap, a pitch to Kareem Hunt, and you gain 15 yards and a touchdown on it. So really creative and brilliant play calling, in my opinion. So I do want to give Kevin Stefanski credit on that, to be able to identify, for a couple of weeks, we're going to go out there with something a little bit confusing for the reason that we can do this. So now anytime that Harrison Bryant is under center, defenses have to be on alert that there could be something else potentially coming.
I love Jason's
transition.
I know. I love Jason's comment here. All you need now is a retired referee to come on, and you'd have an entire
complete show. What else? What more can we need?
Well, that's what you need. You need somebody that can tell you about the officiating and the medical stuff in the game, and you got it. And we're the commentary about the game. It's done. There you go.
Done. Well, there you go, guys. That is our From the Couch segment, brought to you by our good friends over at Cleveland Furniture Company. Dustin, real quick, before we turn it over to a little fact or fiction, why don't you tell our listeners about Cleveland whiskey?
Well, if you haven't had Cleveland whiskey, you got to get yourself some of that because look at this. My bottle's empty of my underground
Ooh.
whiskey here. And you know what? I need some more Magic Rabbit, that peanut butter chocolate stuff. It is amazing. So if you don't have it on your shelf, go get it. Go to clevelandwhiskey.com or ask for it, or go to your local liquor stores or ask for it in your local establishments in Northeast Ohio or wherever you enjoy your favorite alcoholic beverage.
Let's get into it. Let's play a little. Oh, I thought you just threw it back. I thought you just had a little Cleveland whiskey. Just toss the
Nope.
bottle back. Let's play a
Hello.
little fact or fiction, Dustin. And let's make this a little bit more NFL wide rather than just the Browns.
Okay.
And I will kick it off here. Fact or fiction? Despite their loss to the Cleveland Browns, the 49ers are still the best team in the National Football League.
Fiction. And the only reason I say that is because of, and I'm not taking anything away from Brock Purdy, but he's a good quarterback, not a great quarterback. And
Sure.
what I mean by that is he's a game manager. He's a franchise quarterback, but he's not great. I still would say today it would be a toss-up between the Miami Dolphins and the Kansas City Chiefs. If I had to like 1A, 1B, because they both have, we're using the word wrinkle. I'm just going to use it as well. They both have different wrinkles, right? Tua is not Patrick Mahomes, but Patrick Mahomes doesn't have Tyreek Hill. So what do you have there? Two different dynamics in a game that they can hurt you on different ways. So yeah, that's me. But here's another one that's going to sound weird. That is, they're rapidly rising. It's the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are starting to be really showing that they are a team that's going to stick around, and if they keep projecting this way, are going to be a playoff team this year, and going to be probably winning the division. So
Yeah.
that's going to be they're going to be a team that not only is a playoff team, probably hosting a playoff game for the first time in God knows how long. They're in Detroit, so they're a team to watch out for. The Eagles kind of got exposed, but I think the Eagles will still be the Eagles. But no, I don't think the Niners are the number one team. I think they've lost a little bit. I would put them in the 4 or 5 spot. I do think the Bills are still really, really good. They proved, even though they tried to lose it the other night, I think they came down a few steps.
Yeah, I mean, I still think that they probably have the best overall roster in the National Football League when they're healthy. But look, I mean, injuries are a real thing, and if you don't have your players out there, you're not going to be the best team in the league. So, I mean, I still think they're up there. They're a top 3 team in the NFL. You lose CMC, you lose Trent Williams for a little bit, you lose Debo. I mean, and this is the first time playing a really, really good defense. But I agree with you. I think Miami is just they scare the living hell out of me.
Yeah, and how about the fact that Trent Williams gave a lot of street cred to Myles Garrett after the game? He said, when you're going up against a Hall of Fame defensive end, and he wasn't stuttering. He goes, when I have to go up against a Hall of Fame defensive end like Myles Garrett, and Trent Williams, I think, is a first ballot. I mean, like he's going to be a great player himself.
Yeah.
In the future, as far as the accolades he'll get for his position, right? So
yeah, definitely. All right, you're up.
Fact or fiction? Let's see. I got to give you a good one here. This is good. Oh, here we go. This is good. Are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers a playoff team? Fact or fiction?
Right now they are. Do I think that they will be at the end of the season? No. And I say that not as a knock to Baker, really, because I think he's playing really good football right now. And they've got a really good offense, but overall, I think they're missing some things. Their defense isn't what it was a couple of years ago.
Sure.
I don't think, at this point in the schedule, they've gone up against the Vikings, the Bears, the Saints,
Right.
Some bad teams here. Now they have also competed with some good teams, but they lost badly to Detroit. They've got the Falcons again, but if you look down the stretch of their season and their schedule, they're going to have some tough opponents. So I'm going to say no. I think if the playoffs were tomorrow, I would say yes, but obviously they're not. So because of that, I'm going to go with no on this one.
Got it. You're
All
up.
right.
You're in the bowl.
Fact or fiction? Russ is completely cooked.
Well, Russ is in the kitchen. Russ is cooking, but I don't know if he's cooked, but he's
No,
pretty damn cooked.
he's burning some food though. It's not pretty.
Well, here's the thing: is I think the Seattle Seahawks knew what was left in the tank for him. I think they were smart to trade him and not pay him that money. And I think the Denver Broncos were sold some fool's gold. I think he's cooked, and here's the problem. Deshaun's 27 years old. He'll get back to somewhat of his pre-form. He's young enough. He'll play his way through it, just from a physical standpoint. I think Russ is 37, 38 years old. Like, father time for quarterbacks at some point catches up with you, and speed kills. And when you can't run like you can anymore and get caught, I think he is cooked. So I'm going to say fact because, and here's the thing. I don't know what the hell the Denver Broncos are going to do with him. I think they're going to, I honestly think they're going to get rid of him. They're going to have some team unload on him or trade him. And I do honestly think he's going to have to restructure his contract. This is a one and done. No, sorry, this would be a 2 and done. So he'd be there 2 years. But I don't think he's a Denver Bronco next year. I really don't. I think this franchise is ready to look at the next future young guy, build a core, probably keep the head coach and let him get his guys in there and build it. But I think he's cooked. And I think he's cooked in more ways. I think they're going to try to unload him and say, look, we can't pay you this contract. And I don't think anybody else wants to, but you're not going to be the starter. So you got to figure out what you want to do, kid. So,
Yep. I agree. What you got?
Let's see. Fact or fiction? And I know where my thought is that I went on, by the way, From the Couch, our friends over on From the Couch. I went on their podcast last night. That was interesting. There was like 7 people in there at one point. I felt a little dizzy. But fact or fiction, is this Bill Belichick's last year coaching the New England Patriots?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think that there's a lot of things floating around out there that he wants to kind of conquer Don Shula's career, but things aren't good in New England.
They're not good. They're bad. They're bad.
Yeah, I think I'm going to say fiction, just because I think he gives it one more year. Maybe they go all in, they do something crazy. But I think the career is coming to an end here. Last but not least for you, and we'll kind of go rapid fire because we gotta turn it over to the matchup. But fact or fiction, this is the last year in Dallas for Dak Prescott.
Fiction. I think they I don't think they give him a huge deal, but I think this is not his last year there.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I kind of think it is. I'm going to go with fact on it. I think that I said that in the offseason. I said I think this is last year, and if he doesn't pick it up, I could see it happening. Throw Dak and a couple of maybe some picks over to Denver, even with Sean Payton. Could be interesting. Jason, what is in the mug? Actually, an Americano. But if you saw me looking in it, I thought I took a break here because I thought I saw a birdie hair.
Oh boy!
Because golden retrievers shed like crazy, so I thought I was about to drink a couple.
I wouldn't say birdie. I wouldn't say birdie because all I can hear is that meow every once in a while.
I know. All right, let's turn it over to our matchup. And this is brought to you by our good friends over at Circle K.
Fans, get ready for a sizzling sensation that's about to heat up your taste buds. Circle K is bringing you a hot deal this football season. Introducing Circle K's Hot Chicken Wings. And the best part, the price is as hot as the wings themselves. Pick up 6 wings for just $5.99 at your local Circle K today. So what are you waiting for? Gather your friends, your family, and anyone else who craves the ultimate wing experience. Circle K, where every deal is hotter than ever before. Here we go, brownies. Only at Circle K.
All right, let's turn it over to the matchup, Dustin. Let's take a quick look at the injury report. You had a lot of DNPs for your Browns to date in practice. I'm just going to read these off to you. Joel Bitonio was limited today with his knee. Harrison Bryant did not participate with a hip. Amari Cooper was on rest. Myles Garrett rest. Dustin Hopkins did not practice due to personal reasons. Kareem Hunt did not participate with a thigh. Greg Newsome hamstring. Dalvin Tomlinson rest. Cedric Tillman hip. He was a full participant in practice today. We know Anthony Walker Jr. with a concussion, and Deshaun Watson did not participate with a right shoulder. So kind of a laundry list there of guys that are going through it.
Question: is Deshaun Watson throwing though? He was throwing this week, right?
Limited in a limited fashion. So we don't know. We don't know if it's too early to speculate. I think typically on Wednesdays you have a pretty good feel on whether or not your quarterback's going to go, or really anybody that's on the injury report is good to go. But I'm leaning towards no, but there's optimism is what I'm hearing. So let's talk about the matchup. This is a Indy team that is out Anthony Richardson. He is having season-ending surgery, so this is going to be the Gardner Minshew show. They do have Jonathan Taylor. They do have Zach Moss, and he's running wild. In terms of their pass catchers, nothing of real concern that I think you have to worry about. Their tight end, Mo Alley-Cox. They've got Michael Pittman Jr., who's very talented. Outside of that, I think this is a fairly anemic and limited offense. Defensively, they don't scare me either. Defensively, they're giving up nearly 170 receiving yards to wide receivers alone. So you feel good about that matchup, especially with your receivers. I think that this is going to be a big day for Amari Cooper. You hopefully could see some Elijah Moore as a traditional pass catcher. They're giving up nearly 270 pass yards per game. They are 9th in points per game allowed. So that's what their defense is doing. Offensively, they are 10th in yards per game, 11th in plays per game, and 6th in plays per game. So they like to control the clock, and they can do that because they've got a really solid run game. They've got a pretty solid offensive line, but Gardner Minshew does not scare me.
Yeah, I mean, Gardner Minshew a couple years ago, right? Probably did when he was a little more younger. It'll be interesting this game to see how it kind of develops, because we're going to be indoors, right? So weather's not going to be a factor in this game at all. So it'll be interesting to see how we do in that game. Did you say that Cedric was a full participant at practice today?
He was, yes.
Okay. And then I saw something earlier that went, was Kareem questionable? I saw him pop up on questionable for this week for the game. So I don't know if he's dealing with just.
Yeah, he did not participate today with what did he have? With a thigh injury. I don't think it's anything to really worry about, but he did not participate in today's practice.
So more like a rest day. Okay. So here's what I'd like to see. Speaking of this game, can I see some more Donovan Peoples-Jones?
Yeah. I'd like that.
He's been pretty absent, and I know he was out there for a play or two last week, but I just think, and if it's PJ or Deshaun this Sunday, I just would like to see more, because I do think he does have some of that breakaway that Donovan Peoples-Jones can do with some of these defenders against Indy. I would like to see some more Donovan Peoples-Jones in some packages this week and see if we can create some separation. I clamor back to the days of Donovan Peoples-Jones making big plays against the Bengals and doing some great things, out there in the open field. And I don't know. It just seems like he's missing. I just don't. He's absent.
Yeah, so. I think it's weird, and I think it just goes back to the conversation we had earlier with, with Elijah Moore and the way that they're utilizing the offensive personnel. I think David Bell, actually, Jason just brought up David Bell here, but David Bell is kind of stepping up in a way that I didn't expect him to right now. We know and understand that there's a lot of talent on this roster, and you're not going to, not everybody's going to be consistently getting the same number of touches week in and week out. But you'd still like to see the ball in the hands of your playmakers, and that is Donovan Peoples-Jones, that is David Njoku. That at this point, that is David Bell to a certain extent. Amari Cooper, right? I mean, just go through the depth chart, and you're going to read off a lot of talent. But utilizing them in a better fashion. We know we can throw the ball on this Indy team. I'd like to see the Browns do it. Any concerns in this matchup for you?
No, before the show and this week, I've looked at what Indy, like you said, they don't scare me on the offensive side of the ball. If you can control the run and make them one-dimensional, your defense will have success against them. And then I think the Browns just need to manage this game. And by the way, here's the one thing that's concerning me as this has been going on. The Browns have the number one defense, but they are not winning the turnover battle. They
No,
they
they're
are
not.
not.
They're very, very bad in the turnover differential.
Yeah, I would like to see that to start trending in the other way, because if the Browns defense can do that, they're going to be really freaking scary then. If they can flip the script and win these turnover battles
Mhm.
and in football games, to me, that's one glaring thing. I know we did the segment earlier about things that concern me, but I think we need to start winning this turnover battle and each game having the defense just be kind of that their
Dustin,
rallying
the
cry.
Cleveland Browns are 31st in the league in turnover
Yes,
differential with -8.
yeah, that's my point.
-8.
Yeah, they need to flip the script here. That has to change.
I
And
mean,
that
that's
needs to
really
happen.
bad. That is really
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. If you took that stat and then I
Mhm.
put the Cleveland Browns here with not telling you where they're ranked, nobody would tell you they're the number one ranked team on defense. They wouldn't. They're like, well, not with a -8 turnover ratio. That no way. There's no way they're number one, because
No.
there's no way they would have that opportunity. And so I think the Browns need to look at just opportunistic turnovers, right? And getting that
Mhm.
ball. I think we started to see that a little bit in the San Francisco game, getting that first pick turnover from
Mhm.
Purdy in his career, and that started to happen in this game. But unfortunately, PJ had the two turnovers, so all of a sudden there goes your turnover ratio, right? But
Mhm.
I think
So
we
if
need
you're
to just
wondering
have.
how that's calculated, I have it pulled up here in front of me. The Browns have 2 interceptions and 2 fumbles, and takeaways on the season so far. Now in giveaways, now granted, they have had to roll out with DTR and PJ Walker, so keeping that in mind, right? But they have 7 interceptions in giveaways and 5 fumbles so far on the season. So that's not
That's
good. But just for
no.
perspective, the San Francisco 49ers, who we just went up against, they are +8 in the turnover differential.
There you go.
Yeah,
And guess
there
what?
you have
They
it.
were 5-0 coming into
Yeah,
this football game with that. So
yeah.
yeah, you
That is
got to
something
win
to
the turn.
get better.
Yeah, and I know Schwartz probably knows that, and he's probably like, "Damn, we're still winning in despite of that," right? So
Yeah,
uh, I think that's something that they're going to key on. And if you play clean football, right, on the offensive side of the ball, the defense will give you those opportunities, and you will start winning that differential battle. But you just have to play clean football on the offensive side of the ball,
yeah.
because the defense will get their turnovers, they will get their picks. This team is too talented on that side of the ball not for that to happen. So,
Definitely. If you're wondering what you should
what's
have
your
for dinner, the answer for you is Angelo's Pizza. Head on over to Lakewood to get your hands on the best pizza in all of Northeast Ohio. They do it right at Angelo's. They start out with a buttery crust and they do double layer toppings. It's great in the restaurant, at home, even just as great the next day. Head on over to Angelo's today. What's that, Dustin?
I think I lost my train of thought. So you're good.
Oh,
I was
all
gonna.
good.
You're good.
Do you know what? Just off topic, real quick. Have you ever seen the video of it's 2 older people filming a commercial, and they're trying to get the old guy to say "baked in a buttery, flaky crust," and he butchers it for like 2 minutes straight, and he can't say it. So every time I read that Angelo's piece, and I have to say, and it starts out with a buttery crust, I always get a little bit nervous. So if you watch my face during that, I always tend to have a little smirk on my face because I'm just paranoid of messing up that sponsor read.
Well,
If you
it
haven't
could be
seen it, go
worse.
look, just Google baked in a buttery flaky crust.
It could be worse. You're not having to do a 5-star read, which that was a whole
That's
nother.
true. That was fun. That was fun. All right, Dustin, let's get into our game picks. So I beat you last week, so I am currently 2-3-1 on the season. You've got 3 wins, 2 losses, 1 tie. So let's get
Okay.
into it here.
All
Jags
right.
at Saints tomorrow night. What do you got?
Jags.
Yeah, me too. Playing really good football, by the way.
Mhm.
Falcons at Buccaneers.
Did the Falcons win last week?
Good question. I don't know. I have to look.
I just feel like
They
this.
did not. They did not. They lost to the Commanders. That's right.
I'm gonna go the Falcons win. That's gonna be my upset
Okay.
pick of the week. The
All
Falcons
right.
win.
I'm gonna go with the Bucks here. Raiders at Bears.
Raiders are playing some streaky football. I'm gonna go Raiders.
I'm gonna go Raiders here
Bears are.
too. Yeah. Bears are bad, especially without Justin Fields. Browns at Colts.
Browns. I'm gonna take the Browns.
Yeah, I'm taking the Browns here. Commanders at Giants.
Commanders.
I don't know if Danny Dimes will be good to go in this game.
I'm gonna go
I'm gonna go with
Commanders.
I'm gonna go Commanders here too. Lions at Ravens.
Ooh, now this can be a hell of
This is a
a football
game.
game.
This is a game.
Now here's the thing. I hate. I don't hate very many things in the world, but I hate the Ravens. So just for the pure spite that I hate the Ravens, I'm taking the Lions this week because I think it's going to be a crazy close game.
I do too.
Careful,
Me
you might
too.
be sleeping.
Yeah.
You might be. As I say, careful, you might be sleeping on the couch tonight.
No, no, I'm gonna go with the Lions, but I do think that this is gonna be. I think it's gonna be a good game. Actually, I'm gonna change my mind. I am gonna go with the Ravens. It's in
What?
Baltimore.
Oh.
Sorry, David. They are struggling in the run game. No David Montgomery. I'm gonna go with the Ravens. I'm gonna go Ravens here. I hate it. Like I hate the Ravens, but
Dan Campbell is yelling at you from Detroit right now.
I don't want to get yelled at by Dan Campbell. That's just a nightmare. Bills at Patriots.
Bills.
Yeah, Bills. Cardinals at Seahawks.
Seahawks.
Yeah, Seahawks. Steelers at Rams.
I think the Steelers are just hot garbage on offense. And I think the Rams just have more offense. I'm going to go Rams.
I'm gonna go
I
Rams
realize
here as well.
I know the Steelers have a good defense, but they just don't have anything. I mean, they're anemic on. Speaking of anemic offenses, they're anemic.
Yeah. Chargers at Chiefs. This is gonna be fun.
Here's the thing, man. The Chargers were doing everything to win that game the other night, and then they just gave it away. It pissed me off.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, Kellen
Heartbreaking.
Moore has done well with Justin Herbert out there in that offense. But Chiefs, it's a rivalry game though, right? Like, damn. And the Chiefs are completely healthy, right? Ugh.
Healthy enough. They just made a trade today for Mecole Hardman, so he's going
I
back
saw.
to Kansas City. I'm on Chiefs here.
But I'm gonna go Chiefs too. Yeah.
Okay. Packers at Broncos.
Yeah, Packers. I mean, it's going to be an ugly game, but I think the Packers still win.
I do too. I just hate the Broncos. I think they're so bad right now. Dolphins at Eagles. This is gonna be a fun game right here.
So here's what I do think. The Dolphins, they won last week, right? I think they did, didn't they? I'm sure they won.
I think so.
I don't know who they, but the Eagles got a little embarrassed. A little pride's probably setting in. I'm going to take the Eagles here. I think the Eagles are going to win this game.
Yeah,
Eagles defense.
Yeah, Eagles are embarrassed. Yeah, I agree with you. I'm going to take the Eagles, but I think this is going to be a must-watch game. Last but not least, the 49ers at the Vikings.
Boy. So this depends if McCaffrey and Debo is in, right? What's the latest on those two guys? Are they?
I don't know. Yeah, I would imagine that they all are.
Yeah. So
Let me see if I can
I'm gonna go Niners, but man, if you take McCaffrey and Debo Samuel out of that off, I mean that's a different game, right?
Yeah.
That's a totally different game. So
let me see here. I'm pulling up the injury report.
But I think I'd have to go with the Niners.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know the status necessarily on all of those players, but I'm gonna go with the Niners here as well. All right.
So
there we have it.
I'm gonna do a little fun thing. You ready?
Okay.
So I'm gonna hijack our guessing game thing. So we have one tie, is that right? We tied?
Correct.
Okay. So we'll leave that tie in there, but I have an idea. Going forward, and this is totally up to you, in this show, we'll make the rule change here. Like it'll be an audible right here.
Okay.
We'll pick the Browns score each week, and if it's a tie, the tiebreaker goes to that person.
All right.
What do you think of that?
I like it.
I like
it. Okay. All right, cool. Let me write it down. Give me 1 second here. Go ahead with your pick.
Browns 23-14.
23-14 Browns. That's a good score prediction. I'm going to go. What am I going to do? I'm going to go Browns 27 to Colts 10.
Ooh, so spanking.
Yeah. Browns
All
win
right.
big this week. I like it. Dustin, why don't you tell our listeners about what we've got going on in March with the Browns fan cruise?
March 11th, guys, join us. Get to brownsfanscruise.com today to join Allie and I on the cruise that will be taken out of Miami, going to the Bahamas and Jamaica. We'll be doing some fun stuff from the ship and the islands, but a lot of different cool excursions. You'll get to meet over 18 Browns alumni that'll be joining us for that trip, and a ton of Browns fans. Go to Browns Fans Cruise today and come join Allie and us on that cruise, March 11th. Get out of that cold winter weather in Cleveland and come join us on the cruise.
There you have it. There you have it. Look, I think we've got a pretty close to must-win game going into Indy. This is an AFC matchup that you have to have in terms of the divisional race, especially within the AFC. But just so many implications in this game. Got to come away with a win. You're going up against a decimated offense here. They're without the quarterback. Jonathan Taylor hasn't gotten going yet. Going up against a really good Browns defense. So this is going to be a big time game. Browns have to find a way to win it. Doesn't necessarily have to be pretty, but they've got to come away with a W. Dustin, any closing thoughts on a beautiful Wednesday evening?
We don't know about Deshaun Watson. Hopefully he will just progress throughout the week. It is only Wednesday. Sunday's still a long ways away, but hopefully he'll be able to go on Sunday down there in the dome, which actually could help him throw. Not a lot of wind, a lot of things to deal with. And just hope for some of these other guys to get back soon, and hopefully Joel Petonio can go this week. We really need him back out there for that stability. I think he was kind of missed this last Sunday.
Big time, yeah.
And I think he will help solidify, stabilize that line and keep those guys going in this game. But yeah, big win. Let's just have a victory Monday next Monday, which would be amazing. Yep. But everybody join us Sunday. Allie, that's an 11 o'clock. It's a 1 o'clock kick, right, on the East Coast. So join us on Sunday, guys, for about an hour after the game for post-game coverage of that Colts game. And then, Allie, week after next, here we go. Brownies invade Seattle, Washington. So we'll be doing some live stuff from the game up there. So that'll be super exciting to do some stuff up in Seattle. So
yeah, that'll be good. Yeah, everybody stay tuned. Stick around. We appreciate you tuning in. Stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, Browns fans, go Browns.